Hey, mothers and daughters, we have an amazing interview. I told you for the month of February and March, I'm going to be talking about expats, nomads, people that have freedom to travel around the world as a nomad, to kind of work from anywhere, play from anywhere, but mostly those that have literally moved from the United States of America and to other places. And we want to learn about why they've done it and how they've done it. And guess what? If you are interested in doing it as well, at least you can get the information to do it. So my guest today is Miss Asha, and she is in Mexico. She is going to pronounce the part of Mexico that she is in because I've been practicing and it just did not work. So welcome, Asha.
Thank you so much for having me today. I must say, I'm excited to be here, and I am calling in from beautiful Santiago de Querétaro, Mexico.
That is wonderful. I really appreciate you being here and taking out the time to do it because I know you're busy and you're helping wonderful people and things like
Yeah.
that. This is something that it just is on my mind all the time. I do a lot of traveling, and then when I meet people, especially that have moved from whatever their original country was to a different country, I'm always so very, very curious about what made them do it. And I get it because I travel, I see it, I get excited about being in other places and, thinking about creating a new family and new community and things like that in another place. Now, I would like to know, as your brain was working and ticking and going, where do I want to go? I first want to know, how did you come up with that part of Mexico? Did you travel other places and you didn't get a vibe there and you said, you got a vibe here? How did that happen?
Okay, great question. So I'll start off because it
Let's
sounds
start
like
off
a
with
two.
where you originally are from.
Yes. Okay. So I'm originally from New York City, Harlem to be specific. That's where I
Okay.
was born and raised. I spent a good chunk of time in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. I went to college, undergrad there, and I started my corporate career there. So
Okay.
that is my experience living in major cities.
Okay, great.
For me, though, while I was, on my corporate career journey, I would travel as frequently as possible. And what I recognize for me, and many people maybe feel like this, the more I would come back from those vacations, it felt harder and harder.
Oh, don't tell me you were like me, planning the next way to get back
Oh,
to
already.
already on day that it's time to leave.
Yes. It felt harder and harder. And I think which leads to your second question is, why the city I picked or why even Mexico? For
Oh,
me,
yeah.
two things jump out. Number one, quality of life. And
Yes.
number two, intentionality. So I'll start about how I came to this. I
Okay.
started thinking very early COVID. We're talking that top of 2020. Things felt chaotic. It was uncertain. We didn't know what COVID was. And I
Right.
thought to myself, in this uncertainty, what do I want out of my life? And what
Right.
I recognize is that I want to live an intentional life because you probably can understand where I'm coming from. As a woman, we're always last on everyone's list, right? We're caregivers, we're moms, we're wives, we're cousins, we're sisters. And then what about us, right? We're last on the list. And
Right.
so we rarely make decisions as women, for ourselves. We typically go live in a city because we went to college there, or our career started there, or our husbands or wives live there, or
Right.
family. But have
Right.
we ever asked ourselves, where do I want to live? What
Right.
is my preference about the weather when I wake up in the morning?
Right.
What
Right.
landscape do I want to view? What type of people do I want to be surrounded by? What is the food that I want to eat? Is it fresh food? And so I
Right.
made a
Right.
list for myself, and I
Yeah.
realized that that list of intentionality, it really corresponded with a high quality of life.
Right.
And so for me, after traveling to 30 countries and 5 continents, Mexico was a no-brainer. Mexico was a no-brainer because of its diversity. And when
Yeah.
I say diversity, and you know this very well,
But
diversity of
a lot of people don't
landscape.
understand that. They think if they go to Mexico, there's going to be no one who looks like them. And I'm like,
Oh,
who
okay.
get you a flight and let me know later.
Yeah, there's so much diversity of landscape. There's so much diversity of people. There are indigenous cultures that you can learn so much about. The
Right.
history is so rich. Many of us, unfortunately, did not learn about Mexican history growing up, right? But it's incredibly rich. The food is incredibly rich. The people are incredibly welcoming. There are 32 states, guys. Mexico does not solely consist of Cancun, Mexico City, and Cabo.
Okay.
Like,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because
so
a
for
lot of people
me,
used to think like that about Africa. They would think that Africa, you
yes,
don't realize there's 50, like, again, you're so right. You have to know the landscape of the place so that
yes,
you don't judge it as and put it in this little box that box does not even exist.
You're absolutely right. And I will tell your audience there are 32 states in Mexico. I am fortunate I have traveled to 16 of them. So I'm 50% through Mexico. And I can say that each state that I go through, and I know you agree with me, you are more and more engaged and engulfed. It makes you want to go visit the next state. And it's so different too. To be transparent, one state is not the next. If you go to Puebla, it's not like Veracruz. If you go to Veracruz, it's not like Oaxaca. If you go to Oaxaca, it's not like Querétaro. It's
Right.
very different. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. Now, how I ended up choosing Querétaro or Santiago de Querétaro is
Uh-huh.
because I was coming from Washington, D.C. So some things that I did love about Washington, D.C. are the city amenities that I had. So
Mhm.
sports culture, arts culture, museum culture, things of that nature. I didn't love the weather though. so, and
Okay.
so Querétaro provided that to me. It has an international airport. So if
So
I
it
need
checks all the things on your box of what you said. This is
yes.
what I want my life. I love it.
Yes.
Love it.
So it has an international airport. We have a wine and cheese region. Sports culture is huge here. You know, there's a lot of social groups. You talked about community. There are a lot of different
Yeah.
social groups here. There's a culinary scene here. So it just, like you said, it just checked all the all of it on my list.
And you know what? I just love it because to be fortunate enough, and when I say fortunate, I mean to be able to write down exactly what you want. I'm not even talking about money. I'm not talking about anything.
No.
I'm saying to get to that point where you realize this is what I want. Like when I was in my 20s, I'm 50 something now. When I was in
Mm-hmm.
my 20s, I was thinking about what do I want my life to look like when my kids are grown and gone and graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that all I wanted to do was travel. If I didn't do anything else, I wanted to travel so that I could learn about culture. And I'll tell you something I love about Mexico is I love the family unit.
Yep.
Now, when I was a kid and in middle school and high school, we used to always kind of make jokes about, man, I tell you, people from Mexico, they stick together. Man, if I
Mm-hmm.
tell you that is so serious and so appreciated now to
Yep.
know that that family culture is so different and so close knit
And
and
rich.
and rich. And
Yeah.
look, I'm in Texas, so I'm literally right next door. So when
Mm-hmm.
we start talking about good food, I mean, we got the best Tex-Mex, but when we go to Mexico, we get the real deal.
Yeah, you get the real deal.
Yeah, I really feel just a little sad for those people that I've met that have said, you go to Mexico? Oh my gosh, the cartels. And I'm like, you can tell at that point they've never been to any part of Mexico. You can tell
Yeah. And
that
let's talk about
nobody's
it.
ever even visited Texas because if you come to Texas, we're a melting pot of everything. So none of that affects me. It's like, are you kidding? I have just in my neighborhood alone, I have every culture. So, you know,
Yeah. But I'm glad you brought that up because let's talk about it. It's the
yeah,
elephant in the room, right? When I
yeah.
tell people that I do live in Mexico, that is the first question. So, again, let me go back to what I said about 2 minutes ago. I said there are 32 states, right? There are 32 states. I live in one of the safest states. There are many cities and states that are
Hey,
very
wait a
safe.
minute. Say that again for the ones that think that every city is owned by the cartel and you can't walk out. Say that again. You live in one of the what?
Safest cities in Mexico, yes. And there are many safe cities and states here. I don't want that mindset to really stick with people. There are
Right,
many people from Canada, Europe, the States, America, who live here. If it
yeah.
was surely that unsafe, we would have, been gone. And so
Yeah.
I want
Or
to
or you wouldn't have
compare.
even chosen to go there
We
though.
wouldn't even have chosen to go there, but I want to compare it so people have a mindset.
Yeah.
I was coming from Washington, D.C. This is the nation's capital. There
Mhm.
are areas in D.C., for example, that people would say, I wouldn't go to that area. That's not the best area. Would you not
Right,
go to Washington, D.C. as a result of a smaller area? No, that
right.
doesn't make sense. There are going to be border towns that have issues. We're aware of that. But I always tell my clients, you would never live in a border town. That is not an expat friendly environment that you would be looking to live in. You don't have the Spanish to survive there. So you don't have to
Right,
worry about that.
right, right. So true. Now, you've been there how long now?
This is year 4.
Year four. And in year four, when you look back to year one, two, and three, how have you created your own community there? How have you, because they say we have the family we're born with, and then we have the family we create. How are you creating that family environment for yourself?
That's a really good question. I think there's a few things. So getting back to that list of intentionality, I thought about the people that I wanted to surround myself by. You know, we live in chaotic times right now where people are not who they used to be. And so one thing that I love about the Mexican people is they're very welcoming. And so I live in a city and I have a lot of hobbies. I love sports. So I was able to meet people at different sporting events that I hang out with.
Right.
I am in tech. I'm currently building an app. So there is a social tech group that I meet with once to twice a month, and we talk about things like AI and how tech is moving forward. So there are
Right.
different pockets of groups that I meet with. There is the traditional expat group. We have the Black expat
Oh,
group
nice.
that exists here. Yes, we have a Facebook group. There's a WhatsApp channel where we speak, and there are get-togethers. They do brunch monthly.
Building all of that community right there. See,
Yeah. So
that's
I
what I
would
wanted
tell,
to hear was you
yeah.
got, like you say, you got the WhatsApp page. I mean,
Mhm,
your group that you can do. You have the expat group that's there.
mhm.
You do your hobbies and you meet people.
Yep.
That is community.
Yeah, and so I want to remind people while Mexico is a different place or a different country to live, people enjoy similar things. So if you're somebody who enjoys sports, you will find that same community here. If
Okay.
you are an arts and craft girl, you will find, an arts and craft group.
Right.
If you are looking to date, there are speed dating events here that I have seen, you know.
Well, well, I shall see when I'm there in March. I'm just kidding.
So there
Now,
are options,
now
but
you mentioned earlier that you're married. Did you
yes.
have to convince your husband, or did he say, let's do this because we both have a similar list of how we want to create the life that we want?
No, I would never marry anyone that did not have the same mindset that I have. I consider myself a
Wonderful.
global citizen. So I'm always transparent about that from the very beginning.
Mhm.
But I do, in my relocation business, Expat Dreamers, I do work with a lot of families. And as you can imagine, sometimes that is the dilemma. I will meet with the wife and she will be like, "Can you help me?" You know,
Trust me. And then you do everything and they say, well, let me speak with my husband. And I go like, I wish you had brought him with you.
Yes, but I think also for a lot of men, this is a new concept, right? Like many
Right.
of us don't know people who have lived abroad and not just lived abroad, but thrived abroad. Because there's a difference, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
just living no more. We talked about intentionality. We're
Right.
talking about thriving. We're
That's right.
talking about each day being a blessed day. We're having gratitude for our experiences here.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right, that's awesome. So now I know you said you help a lot of families and things like that. So I know there are probably some people that are single that are coming
Yeah,
for your services. Now we're going to talk about your business in a little bit, but let me ask about
sure.
the dating scene coming from their perspective.
Absolutely. So let me just say this. There's a variety of people who want to live abroad now, which I love. I think for a while it used to be retirees, your final chapter or your
Yeah,
sunset years, they used to say.
yeah,
But I think things have changed, right? We have a lot of remote workers, digital
yeah,
workers. That's
yeah.
more common. So, I mean, I meet clients as young as 22 years old. Yes.
Oh, to be 22 and to be able to do this is amazing. I wish I could roll back. That would be
Yes.
amazing because that means that you're
Yes.
starting off with intentionality, like you're saying. Because at 22, a lot of them are, forced to go to college or forced to get that 9 to 5 or forced on all these.
Yes.
But to be able to say, well, I don't, just because I was born here, I don't have to stay here.
Yes.
Not be
So
born
let me
here.
say this,
Okay.
about dating. Culturally, there are some dating differences, and I'll hit on one. It
Okay.
actually it's one you already hit on. Mexico is very family oriented. So a lot of times in my experiences with some of my girlfriends here, men tend to want to get serious a little bit quicker. I think we're not used to that in the States because there's so many options, right?
Because we've watched such a Lifetime. It doesn't work on Lifetimes. But, it's a different
Yes.
culture, different culture.
It's a different culture. So, they want to make sure you're not seeing someone else. They
Right.
want to be transparent about them seeing you. This is, again, what I have heard from girlfriends.
Yes,
So
yes.
things do get serious because people, I feel like, have a little bit more intentionality here, right? That's the word of the hour. But so that's what I've heard. Dating apps are prevalent here, just like they are in the States. So I have had girlfriends that are getting on some of your Tinders and things like that as well and meeting people. So that is
Okay.
very common. As I said, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw like a speed dating event being advertised here in Querétaro for
Wow.
a few days after Valentine's Day. So that's
Lo-
just giving you some perspective about like if you're single, how what you can expect. And then also too, like, let's talk about how you're going to be perceived. I'm a Black woman. So
Yes,
the question may be, if I'm a Black woman moving to Mexico, will Mexican men want to date me? And the answer is yes.
absolutely.
Because I get that question a lot from clients or friends who are in the States. Like, if I go, what would my dating life be? Would they even be interested in me? Yes. Are
Right.
there other expats here who may also want to date you? Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there are going to be options.
That's good. I love that word options. But let me
Mhm.
ask you, any type of language barrier when you originally moved there? Or did you already kind of know a little bit of Spanish before you went to the other 16 locations?
That's a great question. So for me, I studied French undergrad in college and high school. So Spanish was not my language of choice initially. Now,
Okay.
in preparation for the move here, and I would encourage your listeners to do this, living in DC, the local university, UDC, University of the District of Columbia, offered free courses to learn basic Spanish. It was like lifestyle learning for adults.
Yes.
And so I took that course about 2 to 3 times just in preparation to get a basic level. So I would encourage people to reach out to their local universities and see if there are any free courses that are being offered. In addition to doing Duolingo, my
Right.
partner also worked with a local teacher in Mexico City, online classes in preparation that were affordable, under 18 bucks an hour. So we did a little bit of preparation, but what I will tell you is nothing prepares you when you get here. And I
Right.
say that because even if you're like, I got it down, I'm ready. When someone speaks to you, your brain freezes because your mind is thinking, you know English. You've only known English for your whole life.
Exactly.
Yes. So what I will say is I tell every client, practice, and don't practice just solely for yourself. Practice because it's a sign of respect for the culture. You're
Right.
living in a different country. So you want to show them, hey, I'm here. I respect being here. I recognize that Spanish is the local language and I'm
Right.
going to try. You don't have to be perfect. If I tell you the number of mistakes that A, I still make, and B, that I made when I first got here, it's okay be able to laugh at yourself, because they're okay. And you know this, they're okay with you making mistakes. They're not
Right.
a culture that's like, why didn't you know that? No, they're like, oh, you tried.
But and you're trying and you're going to get better as your ears tune into it a
You
little.
will. You
Well,
will,
let's
because you're
talk about
starting to listen more.
exactly, and you'll catch on to those things. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your relocation services because I love the fact that you did it, you're there, and now
Yeah.
other people are wanting to move there, and you're saying, listen, I have these different services I can help you with. I would like to know, one, the name, where people can find it, but I want to know, walk me through, hey, I think I want to move there.
Thank you for asking that question. So the name of my relocation company is called Mexpat Dreamers, and you can find me at mexpatdreamers.com. Also, please check out my social media, specifically Instagram. I'm very active on, same name, Mexpat Dreamers. I give
Mm-hmm.
tips about life abroad here. I chronicle my journey about life abroad here. I share with you the expectation about life abroad here. So
And
it
the
gives
pictures are beautiful and enticing.
it gives you a great insight. So I'll back up a little bit. Like I said, I've been traveling here for 15 years. It started really in college. And what I noticed with the expat journey is that you see a lot online that does look so beautiful, right? People are on beaches, people have jungles in the background,
Very
waterfalls. But why is nobody telling you how to make it happen for you?
right.
I noticed that there was a gap in coverage about that. And so my company, Mexpat Dreamers, really helps aspiring expats with the logistical process of relocating abroad. And so what that means is, how do you find the right location for you? Out of 32 states, what's best for you for your lifestyle preferences?
Right,
Not for
right.
your friend, your cousin, your mama, for your lifestyle preferences, okay? There are things that are going to be more important to you, like Wi-Fi, public transportation. You have a different budget. So those things, I work with you to figure out where are the right locations for you.
Okay.
Additionally, I am not just an expat, I am a legal resident, which means I legally live here. So I
Okay.
help my clients obtain their temporary residency or permanent residency. That does not mean citizenship. I'm going to say that one more time. You will
Gotcha.
not
Gotcha.
be losing your citizenship. You will just be becoming a
That's a
legal
concern with a lot of
resident
people
here.
as well.
Yes.
Let me ask you
Yes.
this on something you just said. Now,
Mhm.
and this is solely your opinion. This is not what your company this is your
Yeah.
so would you say it's easier for someone to say, okay, I've got some money saved up, I'm gonna make the move. They move over there and they look for work, or I have a work from home job that I can do over there. I'm gonna move that work from home job, but I'm gonna work from there. Which one do you think, this is just your personal opinion, which one do you think it's best for someone relocating?
The latter. I
Okay,
would honestly recommend you having a work from home job
got it.
before you come here. You
Right.
always want to make sure that you have the right income, and that's going to come up when you're obtaining residency
That's
because
right.
there is an economic solvency portion that you need to fulfill before you are approved for residency. And so, what economic solvency means is, in so many words, you need to make a certain amount of income to show Mexico
Good picture.
that
That's
you
right.
can afford to live there. They do not want to pick you up as another burden that they have to financially take care of.
Exactly. Like I was telling a lady a couple months ago, and she said she'd like to retire and go to Italy. And I said, well, look up, look up all the rules and everything. And it said you had to bring in an income of at least $4,200. And
Yeah.
she said, what do you mean? I say, well, even if I decided to book a ticket today to go to Brazil, I have to now show my bank account that I have at least $2,500
Yep.
just to even visit for a
To
week or
enter.
whatever I'm gonna go. She was like, what? Can you show me that in writing? Sure. Clickety click and show. She said, I had no idea. I said, only the US is probably a country that you could come to and nobody cares if, you have the money or whatever. But then think about what you just said. We're not trying to take care of you. We have enough of our own people to take care of. So that's very smart, I think, for people to know the rules. So you help them with that part of it?
Yeah, so it's a two-step process. The first part starts in the US. So whatever city or state you live in, there's going to be a Mexican consulate where you start the first process and you're
Right,
pre-approved. And then
right.
the second process is when you get down here, you finalize your residency. So I
Oh,
help with both parts of the process. But I think it's important what you just said, and I'm going to reiterate that.
okay.
When you are thinking of relocating abroad, whether to Mexico or any other location, please make sure you qualify to legally live abroad. Because what happens is people fall in love with the country before you even know the requirements. And then your feelings begin to get hurt because you realize I don't cut
Qualify.
it. I don't
The word, qualify.
qualify. So I always tell people that. So your question about should you have a job? Absolutely, because there's no way that you're going to then be able to obtain residency.
Right. And again, you may not find employment that fast either with, you're trying to get yourself together, trying to get settled in, trying to get to figure out where to go and do these type of things. I'm so glad I don't even know what made me think to ask that question, but
No, I'm
it's
glad you
when I have the
asked that.
conversations with people who don't understand that they have to qualify for that. You can't just pack up and say, I'm gone. A lot of that I heard in the last year or two where people are like, well, if this happens, I'm moving to another country.
Yes.
Well, you know
Yes.
what? Check it out before you go there because you got to make sure you qualify. And they're like, what do you mean qualify? And they thought I was being funny, but they don't understand how visas and all these other type of things work. I mean,
And understand the political landscape and how that plays into changes around residency, right? I'm
right,
not going to go into anything political, but there's a lot going on right now. And so we
right,
want to make sure that we understand what the rules and requirements are now. If you are
right,
interested in moving to Mexico, what I've been telling clients is obtain your residency now because it's almost like an insurance policy. Even
right.
if you don't move until 2026,
Yeah.
2027, at
Yeah.
least you know you have something in your back pocket. So to your point, that's the work that Mexpat Dreamers does. We help you with your location. We help you obtain your residency. We also help you with healthcare. I want
Oh,
to touch on that for a minute because
okay.
again, a lot of people, you pop up and move, right? And we don't think about things like healthcare. But what happens if you do get sick, right? And I'm not talking about surgery, close to death sick. But let's
Right,
say you went hiking with a new group of friends and you turned your ankle. What do you do then? We don't want to
right.
go to the emergency room. We grown. We don't want to sit in the emergency room. Who do we see? So I break down the options. Should I get public insurance or private insurance? I break down those options for you.
Okay.
Another component of my services is I talk about how to legally obtain an apartment here. So
Mm.
I'm going to get into
Now, so wait a
detail.
minute. Wait a
Mhm,
minute. You just said a word.
mhm.
Said how to legally obtain an apartment. So there's a way to illegally? Like I didn't understand the language. Can you
Okay,
explain?
so the reason I'm saying that is there are people who come here and they don't utilize your credit system from the state. So they're not going to look at you and say, you have owned a home for the last 22 years, you paid your
Gotcha.
mortgage. So there need to be different guarantees in place that they need to put in place to make sure, guess what? You don't wake up tomorrow and decide to go back to the States and you
Got
had 7 more months on your lease.
right, right, right. Because it is a business when you're leasing.
Because
Okay.
it is a business. So there are certain guarantees that we as a person that is renting needs to put in
Got
place, right?
it.
We need to understand, is our lease going to be in Spanish? What should be included in our lease? These are the things that I go over.
Think
In
about
Mexico, you can negotiate a lease. So these are the things that I help my clients do. So
it.
there
Okay.
are different components to renting an apartment. Again, when you're in the States, you're thinking, I'll just go down and I'll grab me a 2 bedroom and call it a day. No.
Right. No, not gonna happen. You know, I wasn't gonna bring this up. I thought about it 2 days ago when I knew it was leading up to this, and I wasn't gonna mention it, but I think I should. Uh, has there been any type of uproar or issues with the political landscape now that we've got all the issues, United States, Mexico, and all of that? Any kind of issue, or is everything just kind of calm and good, no problems? Because I know, like in the last couple of days here in Texas, and for folks who live in California, they've had a lot of protests and
Yes.
these things. So, has there been any kind of uproar in
That's
Mexico?
a good question. What I will say is
Wasn't gonna, I wasn't even gonna touch on it, but I thought you just said people need to know the political landscape when they go places.
yeah,
It's very
why I said that answer is okay. So I'll take a step back. Number one, I think it was in October, around that time frame. Mexico also elected a new president, right? Because we only think from a U.S. mindset. There are other countries that elect, presidents as well. They got their
right.
first woman president
Yeah,
here, right?
yeah.
Okay,
What's her last
so
name? Shine Bond or something like that?
yes, yes,
See, I know a little something.
she's actually visiting my city today in Querétaro.
Oh,
So there's a
welcome.
lot going on. It's very busy today.
I bet.
So what I will say is anytime you have a new administration, there are going to be changes in play, right? That's anything, political affiliation aside. Anytime there's someone new, there are going to be changes in play.
Yeah.
And so why I brought up familiarizing yourself with the landscape is that there is a president in the United States who every other day is making mention about Mexico, and it's the mentions are negative, right? And so there is going to be some blowback politically from the president here that's going to say, we're not going to take that, we're not standing for that. So where this comes in for you, if you are an aspiring expat, you're saying
Right,
to yourself, I don't want there to be any changes around the residency requirements.
right, right.
You understand
What
what I'm saying?
you are doing to make sure that you're still, for lack of better words, welcome.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for me to answer the second part of your question, I live in Querétaro. This is more of a local city. There are
Okay.
expats here, but there's not a huge expat presence. So
Okay.
I have not seen any personal blowback. People are very, very kind here. There's another city nearby, about an hour and 15 minutes away, that I shared with you, San Miguel de Allende. I think you're going to visit. Very
Yeah.
beautiful city. I was
Mhm.
there hosting a tour this weekend. I still felt very welcome. But what
Okay.
I will say, this is not necessarily based on the new administration, but what I will say, you have places like Mexico City who are upset at a lot of people coming from abroad because it's created gentrification.
Yes,
And
it
so
has.
what that means, yes. And so people locally, they're frustrated. And something that I try to talk to my clients about is, again, having that respect for the culture, right? How can we combat gentrification? We know we're coming over here with the US dollar. So what
Right.
are things that we can do to make sure we're not displacing locals? And one
Yeah.
of those things that you can do is you can support local. So
Mhm.
you can rent local. You don't want to rent from a real estate company. You don't want to rent from a European who changes into an Airbnb, a Canadian who changes into an Airbnb. Rent from a local family so you're ensuring that the money you're spending is being placed in their pocket.
Mhm.
Familiarize yourself with the actual cost of living. I'll give you
Right.
an example. If you're paying $1,800 for a studio in DC and you come down here and you can get a penthouse 2 bedroom for 1,300, you're thinking, where do I sign up, right? But no,
Right.
that's incorrect. You should not sign up because 1,300 is too expensive. That means for the next local family, $1,300 is outside of the confines of their budget.
That's right. That's right. Okay. I
So
got you.
familiarizing yourself with the right price point so you don't continue to increase the price point and now it's unreasonable for someone who is
For the
local.
locals. That's right.
Try to
So
volunteer
rent
if you
local, eat local, and what else?
volunteer if you can, whether that's teaching English for free to a family on the weekend. If you have a skill, whatever you can do. If you're someone who does websites, maybe you can do a website for a local restaurant that's trying to build up.
Hey,
Yeah. So those are the
give
things.
back. Don't just go
Yes.
and take, and raise the price on everything, and
And
then
then roll out when you're ready.
roll out when you're ready and leave a hot mess left behind
Leave a
because
hot mess left
you get out
behind.
of it. Yes, I got you.
Yes. So
That makes so
those
much
are the
sense.
things that I encourage my clients to do because it is a privilege to live somewhere else and be welcome. And we must understand that.
Absolutely. You know what? You get it.
Thank you.
Absolutely get it. See, if I say things like that, people look at me like I'm crazy. Like she's just traveled. She goes home. She don't know what she's talking about. No,
No.
I eat with the locals. I
Mhm.
talk to people in the locals. When I shop, I go to the markets where the locals are. I don't go to the big mall or go to the Olive Garden. I can have Olive Garden in Houston.
Right.
So no, I want to go where, the family, if I'm gonna do a tour, I'm doing it with the locals.
Exactly.
Doing it with the big expensive company because I'm trying to get, more local type things to learn and meet people and go up into the different villages and things like that. I'll never forget my daughter and I went to Oaxaca, Mexico, and
Mhm.
we went on a ATV tour thing.
Mhm.
And there were some other people with us that were a little highbrow, I should say.
Mhm.
And so the guy, he looked around and he was like, so guys, we're gonna go up into this little village and there's a little store right there. And usually for the ones who want to, everybody doesn't have to, but we usually will buy food at the store and take the bags and deliver them to the families because when they know we're coming up the mountain, they'll be outside or whatever.
Mhm.
We can do that. That's great. And I told my daughter, I say $10, that ain't that ain't nothing. And the other highbrow people were like, no, we'll just wait at the store for y'all to get.
Yep.
We're not interested in doing that. So
Mhm.
we looked at each other and we started counting how many people, and that's how many bags we bought, plus 3 or 4 or 5.
Plus the people, right.
Put them on the
Right.
back of the ATV thing, strapped it down, and went on up into the. We had so much fun. We had a great time. We took pictures with people. They were so excited, and for us to give them the bag with full of,
Yeah.
2 or 3 meals out of it. And in my mind, I was like, why didn't the other people do that? And then my mind said, mind your business. You took care of it. Y'all took care of it. Mind your business. The people got with it. Because literally when we got to the little street, there were probably about maybe 70 people.
Mhm.
So me and my daughter and maybe 3 or 4 other people went, and then it was like 8 or 9 who did not go. They were just like, we didn't come here for that. And I
Mhm.
was just like, well, I don't know where they're from, but any little bit of decency is all over the world. It doesn't really matter how broad you are. A little bit of decency is all over the world. The guy, you could tell he was nervous about even asking us. That's why
Right.
I started
Right.
it off with,
If you want, right.
for those of you that are interested, we're
Mhm.
gonna go up into, for those of you that are not, there's a place right here. There was a little restaurant and everything, and they said, yeah, we ain't going up there. And I'm just like, I don't know if they were afraid or if they were just way too highbrow, but from our observation, it was a highbrow thing. Like, what? I didn't come to do a service project.
And you know what that's called? Getting back to a question you asked about 20 minutes ago, community. That's
Yeah,
called community.
yeah.
That's how you build
Everywhere, but
community.
community everywhere you go.
Yeah, community globally because
It's gotta
we
be
look
in your
out for each
heart.
other
This is very true. It's got to be in your heart. That way it goes everywhere you go. I
with
mean,
you.
I did mission trips for 8 summers in Honduras.
Yeah.
So I get it. But when I'm around people who don't get it, I'm just kind of like, I wonder how they grew up or what kind of community are they in? What kind of family? I said my brain starts clicking. It's like, I don't understand. But wow, you have really, really anything else that you do in your company that our audience may need to know about? Because I just know so many people, they want to make the transition, but they don't know the who, the what, the when, the where, the how,
Yeah.
and they don't know anything about the fact that you can't just say, I think I want to retire in Italy. Have you been there? No, but I'm going. You don't know the
Yeah.
vibe. You got to get the
You
vibe.
need to know it. I'll break down a few of the components of my business. So we really talked about a lot of the logistical processes. We talked
Yeah,
about finding an apartment. Cost
yeah,
of living is another element that I really go through. So I
right,
created a package called From Scratch to Relocation. So
right,
taking you from scratch to where I am right now, relocating. And so what it is it's a 7-week private course. And each week we go over a logistical topic. So week 1, we find the right place for you to live. Week 2 and 3 is visa. Week 4 is healthcare. Week
okay,
5 is, finding an apartment. So that's called From Scratch to Relocation. You can
like it.
find that on my website.
Okay,
Another component of my business are my relocation tours. I just finished one yesterday, literally. So I think it's very important, no matter how beautiful or great I tell you an area is, you need
right.
to come for yourself.
For
You need to
yourself.
see it for yourself.
That's right.
And for a lot of people, this is such a big move. They need to see it through someone's eyes who maybe looks like them, who's been on the ground for a lot of time, who
Right,
speaks the language, because it really allows them to gain the pulse of the city. And so
right,
on my relocation tours, we eat like a local. I show you apartment rentals on the market. We do
that's right,
neighborhood tours for you to figure out the right neighborhood. This will
right,
really give you a picture and give you some peace of mind about what your life looks like. I take
right,
you to 2 different cities. I take you to Querétaro, where I live, which is a more local city, and then I
uh,
take you to San Miguel de Allende, which is a more expat city. And it creates a juxtaposition for you to make your mind up about what's right for you.
absolutely. Now, before I let you go, I want you to give us your website again,
Yes.
know where they can find you on Instagram and any of the other social medias. And then if there's anything else that you want to share before we go, but let's get that website out there because I want
Okay,
to
perfect.
go
So
there.
again, my company is called Mexpat Dreamers, MEXPAT, and then Dreamers like normal. You can find me at www.mexpatdreamers.com. Please also check out my social media, same name, Mexpat Dreamers on Instagram and Facebook.
And I'm telling you right now, the Instagram is beautiful. There's lots of photos on there. There's lots of, here's how to connect and all of that on there. So, I'm excited about it. I thank you so much for giving me your time today and sharing so much information that I know people
Mhm.
want to get in touch, with you to find out those things that they just don't know. And I know we have all have computers and everything is at a click, but if you don't know what you're looking for,
You can't find it.
you can't find it even though it's right there in front of you. So to be
Yeah.
able to have someone like you with your company to say, hey, I have a service that and you if you hire me to do this service for you, I can make your life a little bit easier and maybe
Yeah.
lay out those questions that you have in the back of your mind that nobody can answer because they haven't done it. And that's the other thing I encourage for our listeners. Do these types of major life changes with folks who have already done it. They can tell you the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and they can, help you with being able to get those questions answered that folks who are not literally doing it, they can only tell you what they saw on TV or what they saw somebody else doing it, but you're literally living it every
Yeah.
single day. So thank you for sharing your company. Thank you for sharing your time. And thank you for sharing all of the wisdom that you have imparted on us because I'm telling you, this topic just makes me excited, just as a traveler,
Yes.
but knowing at some point I would like to be able to be somewhere for 3, 4, 5, 6 months and to just immerse myself in just so much of all types of different cultures. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll leave your audience with this, fear
Yes,
not, there's going to be another version of you that's waiting to be unlocked. When you live abroad, you meet another version of yourself, someone you did not know, someone
mm,
that's going to grow, someone that's going to have challenges, but opportunities. And on the
right.
other side of it, you'll be so grateful to meet that new version of yourself.
I love that. A new version. All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate it. And thank you just for sharing all of that with the audience because we have so many women that listen. And again, this is a hot topic right now. And I'm not just talking
It
about it
is.
because it's a hot topic, but I've been curious about this for the longest. And when I
Mhm.
pulled the trigger on saying, hey, I need to talk to people,
Mhm.
I'm so glad that you answered the call. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
have a great day and we
You
will
do
talk.
the same.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.